Hello, YouTube RPG community. This is Lesser Cronus Strolling Bones again. You're probably getting sick of me. Anyway, this is a more so a question and answer request. I want to start a new series of videos based on settings, and like deeply going into the nuances and flavor behind a lot of these settings. Now, I'm going to start with Warhammer because that's the one I know the best, although I could go on for hours about Forgotten Realms, Dark Sun. I really like Planescape. Many settings exist to delve into, but I was kind of inspired by Tower Guard DM's videos, where he went into a little bit of detail, watched quite a bit of detail about the different races in Warhammer through reading his different books, the army books. Now, I've got on me here setting books from the role-playing game produced by Fantasy Flight Games out of Minnesota. This particular one is from the core set. It touches on religion. But really what I want to do is pose some questions and get some feedback from you as the community. And I kind of want to know what you guys are most interested in, to give me some jumping off points on where to start and where to go with the setting. How about I give you a little bit, first of all, I want to give you a little bit of background information about Games Workshop, who essentially developed the intellectual property that is Warhammer. It started as a company in 1975. I think I know for a fact a guy named Ian Livingston was involved. I'm not positive on any of the other key members, but they produced board games, tons of different board games, back in the 70s, mostly the standard board games you're thinking of, backgammon, games like that. And this is right around the time where Dungeons & Dragons was starting to kind of claw. Well, just previous to the time Dungeons & Dragons kind of started to come to the forefront as far as a newfangled hobby was concerned. It started getting a lot of commercial attention. And Games Workshop then went ahead and started developing a role-playing game and miniatures game magazine called White Dwarf, and it's a fantastic resource. There's probably at least 400 of them out there, and it started as a role-playing game resource, and eventually they built this setting up, and the setting is phenomenal. It utilizes real-world experience, a real-world setting, in not necessarily a unique way, but a clever way, utilizing elements of other sort of fantasy fiction and mythology, married very well with almost a mirrored image of Renaissance Europe, and even pre-Renaissance Europe. But that is essentially the setting that was developed by these fellows, and then they made a tabletop war game, miniatures-based tabletop wargaming, or war game, which a lot of people aren't necessarily aware of this, but Dungeons & Dragons sprang out of that. It was a way of taking wargaming to a more specialized direction, where instead of you acting out the events that affected groups of units, groups of troops in a battle sense, you started to get way more into the specifics of individual characters within that unit, and the adventures these people could go on through all these different fantastic settings. Anyway, long story short, Games Workshop developed two major intellectual properties in Warhammer and Warhammer Fantasy Role, or Warhammer 40K, which is the far-flung future of the Warhammer universe, and it's really fantastic too. Very fantastic. I'll touch a little bit on that maybe, but I like the fantasy setting more, and I'm more involved in it, so I could probably provide you guys with more information about that setting in general. So any questions that you guys have pertaining to the setting, let me know. Depending on the questions that I receive, I will then make more videos about the setting. If I don't get much of a response, I will proceed to kind of go in what I would assume to be a logical direction, but we'll see. These will probably be a long time coming. I'm assuming that by summer I should probably have produced enough videos that anybody could watch I'm going to say maybe 20 videos, watch them and have a full understanding of the breadth of Warhammer. This will help with any kind of fantasy role playing, not just in a Warhammer sense. Knowing this information also allows you to step back and, if you are a setting creator, think, well, did I apply that angle to my setting? Because setting is one of the hardest things to develop as a game master or a designer. There's so many small nuances to make the setting believable and interesting, something that players will want to interact with. So I would love to delve more in and reveal more of the information I know about Warhammer to people who aren't necessarily as involved in gathering the knowledge provided. It's a deep, rich history, not just metagame, not just in real world terms, but the actual setting itself is, while not necessarily the most original, is probably the deepest setting ever developed for a fantasy world, next to maybe Tolkien's, and even then it competes with that. Mind you, Tolkien's more impressive because only several people have been involved in the development of that, whereas with Warhammer, it is the setting in and of itself has novels. They've made audio dramas. There are hundreds of books, literally game-oriented and story-oriented books out there that apply to the world. So many people have developed it, and it is a rich, rich world. So any information that you guys may want to know, be it settings, regions, races, history, stories, I can go on for hours about that. So let me know what you guys think. If I don't get too much of a response, well, then I will slowly proceed to produce videos from what I would perceive to be a logical line to make. So anyway, thanks a lot, guys. I hope to get these setting videos out there. I hope you guys are interested. Thanks a lot. Later.